Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Axel Chandra. I'm from English Education of University of Muhammadiyah Semarang. In this video, we will learn about the verb phrase. What is the verb phrase? The verb phrase is a collection of words consisting of several verbs. First is transitive verb. Transitive verb is a verb phrase using a transitive verb has to have a direct object. As we can see, the sentence have a direct object. Where is it? Now, let us see and relay the sentence. Kate as subject, hug as predicate, and the baby is a direct object. Of course, this sentence can use transitive verb because it has to have a direct object. Okay, let's learn about the tree diagram. Sentences are divided into noun phrase and verb phrase. Kate as noun of noun phrase, and then hug as transitive verb because it takes a direct object. Finally, noun phrase, which also divided into determinant and noun. Determinant is a the and baby as a noun. Next is intransitive verb. An intransitive verb is a class of verb which does not take an object. In this sentence, it does not contain an object and only contain a subject and a predicate. For example, can as subject and snores as predicate. There are other examples like Sarah as subject and texting as predicate. Of course, the sentence does not contain an object. Now, let's take a look at the tree diagram. Sentences are divided into noun phrase and verb phrase. Can as noun of noun phrase, and then snores as intransitive verb of verb phrase. Why? Because this sentence only contains a subject and a predicate with the exception of the object, and snores as for intransitive verb for this sentence. And now, let's compare these following sentences. First is, Ken snores very loudly. Ken as subject, snores as predicate, and very loudly as adverb. Next is, the baby cried in the night. The baby as subject, cried as predicate, and in the night as adverb. The first sentence has the form of an adverb phrase, and the second sentence has the form of a prepositional phrase. And this is the tree diagram of both sentences. The first sentence are divided into noun phrase and verb phrase. Can as noun of noun phrase, and then verb phrase are divided into snores as intransitive verb and adverb phrase, which also divided into degree and adverb. Very as degree and loudly as adverb. The second sentence are divided into noun phrase and verb phrase. The as a determinant and baby as a noun of noun phrase. And then verb phrase are divided into cried as intransitive verb, and prepositional phrase are divided into prepositional, that is in, and noun phrase, which also divided into the as determinant and night as noun of noun phrase. Next is the transitive verb. The transitive verb requires two objects, which is direct object and indirect object, which means that a sentence should have a direct object and indirect object. In the transitive verb, you must know the difference between direct object and indirect object. Okay, let's see the example. In the first sentence, Ray as subject, told as predicate, the children as indirect object, and a story as direct object. Why? Because stories are considered as direct object and the children are considered indirect object. The second sentence are the same as Sue and gave are considered as subject and predicate, but the difference is the placement of words in sentence. That is, a jumper became direct object and to Oxfam became indirect object. Okay, let's see the tree diagram. The first sentence are divided into noun phrase and verb phrase. Ray as noun of noun phrase, and then told as the transitive verb because this sentence takes a direct object and indirect object. The direct object and indirect object become noun phrase that are divided into as determinant and noun. For both determinant is the and a, for both noun is children and story. The second sentence are divided into noun phrase and verb phrase. Sue as noun of noun phrase and the verb phrase are divided into three. Gave as the transitive verb because a direct object and indirect object in the sentence. A jumper as direct object became noun phrase because determinant is a and noun is jumper. Finally, to Oxfam as indirect object became prepositional phrase that are divided into prepositional, that is to, and then Oxfam as noun of noun phrase. Next is intensive verb in relational linking or copular. As an intensive verb for the words like be, seems, appear, become, look, and etc. Transitive verb function as the subject complement. For example, Sally became a doctor as a noun phrase as subject complement. And then George is in the garden as a prepositional phrase as subject complement. And lastly is Sue seems unhappy as an adverb phrase as subject complement. Of course, if this sentence using a word from intensive verb, it will be seen that the sentence will relate to each phrase and determine the function of transitive verb as the subject complement in each sentence. Let's take a look at the tree diagram. The first sentence are divided into noun phrase and verb phrase. Sally as noun of noun phrase and then became as intensive verb because the intensive word will relate to each phrase on the sentence. The verb phrase become noun phrase that are divided into as determinant and noun. An a as determinant and doctor as noun. The second sentence are divided into noun phrase and verb phrase. George as noun of noun phrase and then verb phrase are divided into is as intensive verb and prepositional phrase are divided into prepositional, that is in, and noun phrase which also divided into the as determinant and garden as noun. The third sentence are divided into noun phrase and verb phrase. Sue as noun of noun phrase and the verb phrase are divided into seems as intensive verb, and unhappy as adverb of adverb phrase. Next is complex transitive verb. The complement relates to the object, not the subject, and the complement is called an object complement because it relates to object, not the subject. Let us see the example. In the first sentence, the voter as subject, elected as predicate, Mary as direct object, and president as object complement. And the second sentence, Kate as subject, Todd as predicate, John as direct object, and a fool as object complement. From these both sentences, at the end of the sentence is connected with the direct object and is considered as object complement because relates to the object, not the subject. It just retell or give an explanation about the direct object on the sentence. Now, let's take a look at the tree diagram of both sentences. The first sentence are divided into Kate as noun of noun phrase, and the verb phrase are divided into three. Told as complex transitive verb because there is an object complement in the sentence, John as noun of noun phrase, and a as determinant of noun phrase, and fool as noun of noun phrase. The second sentence are divided into noun phrase and verb phrase. Carol as noun of noun phrase, and the verb phrase are divided into three. Both as complex transitive verb, and then noun phrase that are divided as for determinant is the, and noun is car. Object complement at the end of the sentence from the verb phrase to the prepositional phrase that are divided into prepositional that is in, and the noun phrase which also divided into the as determinant and garage as noun. Next is prepositional verb. A prepositional verb requires prepositional phrase such as glance, lean, refer, and the result like glance at, lean on, refer to. For example, Sally leaned on the table. Of course, we can see the prepositional verb from this sentence, that is, lean on. And the second example, the children glance at the pictures. Now we can see the prepositional verb, that is, glance at. And the function of the prepositional phrase is prepositional object. The prepositional phrase is from prepositional and noun phrase. Let's see the tree diagram. Sentences are divided into noun phrase and verb phrase. The as a determinant and children as a noun of noun phrase. The verb phrase are divided into glance as complex transitive verb because there is an object complement in the sentence, and prepositional phrase are divided into prepositional that is at, and noun phrase which also divided into the as determinant and pictures as noun. Verb phrase is from prepositional verb plus prepositional object and prepositional object as prepositional phrase. And the last is imperative. Imperative is used to give commands or instruction, as in the following example. Close the door, beat the X likely. Or you can find another example sentence for imperative, which is about giving commands or instruction to the people. Now, let's take a look at the tree diagram of both sentences. The first sentence has become a verb phrase, but become divided into clause as transitive verb and noun phrase, which also divided into the as determinant and door as a noun. For the first sentence, clause as predicate and the door as direct object, because the door is an object relates for the words close as predicate. The second sentence also has become a verb phrase, but became divided into three: beat as transitive verb and noun phrase, which also divided into the as determinant and X as a noun. For the last, likely as adverb of adverb phrase. For the second sentence, beat as predicate, the X as direct object, likely as adverb, because adverb are relates for both predicate and direct object. I think that's all that I can explain to all of you in this video. I'm sorry if I have mistake in this video. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.